I stumbled into his bar with bruises on my wrists and fear in my eyes, never imagining the man who offered me shelter wore violence like a second skin. But Luca Moretti didn't see a victim when he looked at me. He saw someone worth burning the world down for. Before we dive into this story, I have a quick question for you. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you love intense romance stories with a touch of danger, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I bring you captivating tales like this one every single day. Now, let's jump right in. The rain had turned vicious by the time I stopped running. My lungs burned, my soaked clothes clung to my dark skin like ice, and somewhere between Tyler's apartment and wherever the hell I was now, I'd lost one of my shoes. The other one, a cheap ballet flat that was falling apart anyway, I kicked off into a puddle. 3 years. 3 years I'd given that man. 3 years of walking on eggshells, of apologizing for things that weren't my fault, of believing him when he said no one else would ever love me. That my natural hair was unprofessional. That my opinions were too much. That the bruises were my fault because I just couldn't learn to stop pushing his buttons. Tonight, his buttons had been pushed by me coming home 20 minutes late from work. 20 minutes because my boss had needed help closing up the cafe, but Tyler didn't care about explanations. He never did. You think you can just disrespect me? His fingers had dug into my wrist, leaving marks I could already feel darkening. You think anyone else is gonna put up with your shit? You're lucky I even look at you. For 3 years, I'd believed him. But tonight, when I looked in his eyes and saw nothing but contempt for the woman he claimed to love, something inside me finally cracked wide open. So I'd grabbed my purse and run. Now I stood shivering on an unfamiliar street in a neighborhood I definitely couldn't afford, watching the warm golden light spill from the windows of a place called the Crimson Rose. The sign above the door was elegant, scripted in a way that screamed exclusivity. This wasn't the type of bar where someone like me belonged, a 26-year-old cafe worker with no college degree, no family, and currently no shoes. But it was warm inside. I could see that much. And I was so cold I couldn't feel my toes anymore. The decision made itself. The door was solid wood and brass, heavier than it had any right to be. Or maybe I was just weak. 3 years of being diminished had a way of making everything feel harder than it should. I put my shoulder into it and stumbled inside, immediately aware of every eye in the place turning toward me. Oh God. This wasn't just upscale. This was another world entirely. Maybe a dozen tables, all occupied by people wearing watches that cost more than my yearly salary. The floors were dark hardwood, polished to a mirror shine. Leather booths lined the walls, and soft Italian music drifted from speakers I couldn't see. The air smelled expensive, leather and cigars and something woodsy and rich that made me think of old money and older secrets. I didn't belong here. I needed to leave. We have a dress code, miss. The voice came from directly in front of me, and I looked up, into the most striking face I'd ever seen. He was tall, 6'3" at least, with a kind of build that spoke of discipline and power carefully contained beneath a perfectly tailored black suit. His hair was dark, almost black, styled back from a face that could have been carved from marble, all sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, and a nose that looked like it had been broken at least once. But his eyes were what stopped my breath. Green. Not hazel, not brown green, but pure emerald green that seemed to glow in the low light of the bar. And those eyes were currently taking in every detail of my appearance. My soaked jeans, my oversized Howard University sweatshirt that had been through the wash too many times, my bare feet tracking water onto his expensive floors, my natural hair plastered to my head and neck. I waited for the disgust. The dismissal. That look Tyler always gave me when I didn't meet his standards. But it didn't come. Instead, something flickered in those green eyes. Something I couldn't name but felt all the way down to my bones. I'm sorry, I managed, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. I didn't. I'll leave. I turned toward the door, already feeling the flush of humiliation creeping up my neck. Of course, they had a dress code. Of course, I couldn't just walk in here looking like a drowned rat and expect. His hand caught my elbow. Gentle. Steadying. Warm through the wet fabric of my sweatshirt. I didn't say you had to go. I froze, not quite brave enough to turn around. His voice was deep, with the barest hint of an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe. It did something strange to my pulse. I said we have a dress code, he continued, and I felt his hand move to the small of my back, guiding me. Not pushing, not pulling, but leading with a touch so light I could have broken away if I wanted to. I'm choosing to ignore it. He steered me through the bar, and I was acutely aware of the curious glances from the other patrons. But no one said anything. No one even looked like they might say anything. They just watched as this man, clearly someone important, escorted me to the bar and settled me onto a velvet stool that was more comfortable than my entire couch at home. You're shivering. Before I could respond, he was shrugging out of his suit jacket. The white shirt underneath fit him like it had been made specifically for his body, and knowing this place, it probably had been. He draped the jacket over my shoulders with a carefulness that made my throat tight. It was still warm from his body. And it smelled incredible. Bergamot and cedar and something darker underneath. Something that made me think of smoke and whiskey and dangerous promises. Thank you, I whispered, pulling it tighter around myself, even though I knew I shouldn't. I was getting it wet. It probably cost more than my monthly rent. But he didn't seem to care. He'd moved behind the bar now, and I watched as he selected bottles with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. He didn't ask what I wanted. Just mixed something with precise, efficient movements that were almost hypnotic to watch. When he slid the glass across to me, our fingers brushed. The contact lasted a second too long to be accidental. His skin was warm, and I felt that brief touch all the way up my arm like electricity. Drink, he said, those green eyes holding mine with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. You look like you've had the kind of night that requires something stronger than wine. I took a sip and immediately felt warmth spread through my chest, loosening the knot of panic that had been choking me since I'd run from Tyler's apartment. It was smooth and strong, and probably cost more per ounce than I made in an hour. Better? He asked, and I realized he was still watching me. Not in the way Tyler watched me, looking for flaws, for reasons to criticize. This was different. Like he was genuinely concerned about the answer. Better, I admitted. He leaned against the bar, and somehow he made that simple gesture look like art. Like everything he did was deliberate and meaningful and worth paying attention to. I'm Luca, he said. Luca Moretti. I own this place. Of course he did. Of course, the most beautiful man I'd ever seen owned the most exclusive bar I'd ever accidentally stumbled into. It's beautiful, I said, glancing around again now that I wasn't quite so focused on my own humiliation. The details were even more impressive up close, the way the light fixtures cast soft pools of gold, the artwork on the walls that looked like actual originals, the way every single element worked together to create an atmosphere of refined elegance. Then, before I could stop myself, why did you let me stay? I'm clearly not your usual clientele. Something flickered in those green eyes. Amusement, maybe. Or something deeper, more complicated. Because when I saw you standing in that doorway, soaking wet and looking like the world had tried to break you. He paused, and his gaze dropped to where I was gripping my glass. To where my sleeve had ridden up just enough to reveal the finger-shaped bruises already darkening on my brown skin. His jaw tightened. It was subtle, just a slight flex of muscle, but I saw it. And I saw something flash in his eyes that was definitely not amusement. It was rage. Pure, cold, controlled rage. I recognized something, he finished, his voice softer now but no less intense. What? The word came out barely above a whisper. Luca's eyes lifted back to mine, and the look in them made my heart stutter. Someone worth protecting. The words hung between us, heavy with meaning I didn't fully understand. There was an edge to his voice now, something dark and dangerous that should have scared me. That would have scared me, if I'd had any sense of self-preservation left. Instead, it made me feel safer than I had in years. "You don't know me," I said, but there was no strength behind the words. No conviction. Luca reached across the bar. Slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. His fingers touched my chin, tilting my face up until I had no choice but to meet those devastating green eyes. The touch was feather-light, gentle in a way I'd almost forgotten men could be. But it ignited something in my chest that felt like coming alive after being numb for so long. "Then let me," he said quietly. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, and I realized I was crying. When had I started crying? "Stay. Have another drink. Tell me your name. Let me prove that not every man who offers you shelter wants to cage you." The intensity in his gaze made it impossible to breathe. This wasn't the suffocating attention Tyler had given me, the kind that demanded and consumed and left nothing of yourself behind. This was different. Luca looked at me like I was something precious he'd stumbled upon. Something rare. Something he wanted to know, not own. And God help me, I wanted to let him. "Sofia," I whispered. "My name is Sofia." His smile was slow and absolutely devastating. It transformed his entire face, softening those sharp edges just enough to remind me he was human and not some fantasy I'd conjured from desperation and cold. "Sofia." He said my name like he was tasting it, rolling it around in his mouth to test the flavor. "Beautiful. It suits you." The way he said it, with that slight accent curling around the syllables, made me believe him. Made me remember that I was supposed to be beautiful, even though Tyler had spent 3 years convincing me otherwise. One of the well-dressed patrons called for him. "Moretti." But Luca's eyes never left mine. "Give me 10 minutes to handle my guests," he said softly, intimately, like we were the only 2 people in the room. "Then I'm all yours for the rest of the night. If you'll have me." I should have said no. Should have finished my drink, returned his jacket, and walked back out into the rain. Should have found a shelter or called. Who? I didn't have anyone. No family since my grandmother passed 2 years ago. No real friends because Tyler had systematically isolated me from anyone who might have told me I deserved better. But when Luca Moretti looked at me like that, like I was the only person in the world who mattered, I found myself nodding. "I'll wait." His smile widened, and he squeezed my hand once before releasing me and moving down the bar to attend to his other patrons. I watched him work, watched the easy confidence in his movements, the way people responded to him with a mixture of respect and something that looked almost like fear. Who was he really? The question should have concerned me more than it did. But I was cold and tired, and so desperately tired of being afraid. And for the first time in 3 years, someone was looking at me like I mattered. So I sat in Luca Moretti's expensive bar, wearing his jacket and drinking his whiskey, and let myself believe, just for tonight, that I deserved this small kindness. I had no idea that this moment, this choice, would change absolutely everything. That the man currently charming his guests with that devastating smile was far more dangerous than I could imagine. And that walking into the Crimson Rose hadn't been chance at all, it had been fate. I nursed my drink and watched Luca work the room. That was the only way to describe it, work. Every interaction was smooth, practiced, effortless. A hand on a shoulder here, a knowing smile there, a few words in Italian that made an older gentleman laugh and clap him on the back. He moved through his domain like a king among subjects, commanding respect without ever appearing to demand it. But every few minutes, those green eyes would find mine across the room. Just a glance. A small smile. A silent reassurance that he hadn't forgotten me. It made my stomach flutter in a way that felt dangerously close to hope. First time at the Crimson Rose? I jumped, nearly spilling my drink. A woman had materialized beside me, late 30s maybe, with sleek black hair and the kind of bone structure that belonged on magazine covers. Her dress probably cost more than my car. Well, Tyler's car. I didn't have one anymore. He'd made sure of that, insisting I didn't need the independence. That obvious? I asked, trying for a smile. She returned it, but her dark eyes were assessing me with the kind of scrutiny that made me want to shrink. Honey, you're sitting at Luca Moretti's bar wearing his jacket. That makes you either very brave or very naive. I glanced down at the jacket still wrapped around my shoulders. He was just being kind. I came in from the rain. Luca doesn't do just kind, she interrupted, not unkindly. Everything he does is calculated, purposeful. She tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle she couldn't quite solve. What's your name? Sofia. I'm Vanessa. She lifted her wine glass in a small toast. Word of advice, Sofia? Luca Moretti is a lot of things. Generous, protective, loyal to those he claims. But simple kindness. She laughed softly. That man doesn't have a simple bone in his body. Before I could respond, Luca appeared at my other side, moving with that quiet grace that seemed impossible for someone his size. Vanessa, he said, his voice pleasant but with an edge that definitely wasn't there when he spoke to me. Shouldn't you be getting home to your husband? Vanessa's smile didn't falter. Just getting acquainted with your new friend. She seems sweet. The way she said, sweet, made it sound like a terminal diagnosis. Do try not to corrupt her too quickly. I'll take that under advisement. They stared at each other for a long moment, some kind of wordless exchange happening that I couldn't decipher. Then Vanessa set down her wine glass, kissed me on the cheek like we were old friends, and glided away on heels that could have doubled as weapons. Sorry about that, Luca said, reclaiming his spot behind the bar. Vanessa means well, but she's protective of me, which makes her suspicious of everyone else. Should I be worried? I asked, only half joking. She made it sound like you're dangerous. Something flickered in his eyes. Would it matter if I was? The question hung between us, weighted with meaning. I should have said yes. Should have asked what exactly he meant by that. But sitting there in his jacket, warm for the first time in hours, looking into eyes that seemed to actually see me. I think, I said slowly, that the most dangerous thing in my life just became the safest thing I've left behind. Luca's expression softened. He reached across the bar and took my hand, not grabbing, just offering, waiting for me to close the distance. I did. Tell me about him, he said quietly. I shook my head. I don't want to talk about Tyler. Then tell me about you. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, the touch both soothing and electric. What does Sofia do when she's not running through the rain? I almost laughed. Nothing very interesting. I work at a cafe in Columbia Heights. I read a lot. Furthermore, I used to paint, but... I trailed off, not wanting to explain how Tyler had convinced me my art was a waste of time and money. Not anymore. Why did you stop? The gentle question somehow hurt more than Tyler's criticisms ever had. Because Luca asked like he actually cared about the answer. Like my art might have mattered. It's complicated, I said. The best things usually are. He released my hand and started making another drink, something different this time, layering ingredients with careful precision. I think people who create art see the world differently. They notice beauty in places others overlook. That's rare. Valuable. You sound like you have experience with artists. My mother was a painter, he said, and something in his voice made my chest ache. She saw potential everywhere. In every person, every moment, every mistake. She taught me that nothing is wasted if you can find the beauty in it. I asked softly. She passed 8 years ago. He slid the new drink across to me, something amber and gold with a cherry. She would have liked you. You don't know that. You've known me for all of 20 minutes. Luca leaned against the bar, bringing himself closer to eye level with me. Close enough that I could see the faint scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the flecks of gold in all that green. I know you walked into my bar looking like you'd been through hell, and the first thing you did was apologize for your appearance. I know you tried to leave rather than inconvenience me. I know someone put bruises on your skin, and you're still more worried about getting my jacket wet than about where you're going to sleep tonight. His voice dropped lower. I know you stopped creating art because someone convinced you it didn't matter. And I know my mother would have taken one look at you and seen exactly what I see. My breath caught. What do you see? Strength, he said simply. The kind that doesn't break, it just bends until it can't anymore. Until one day it snaps back and takes everyone by surprise. He straightened, and I immediately missed his proximity. You're stronger than you think you are, Sofia. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. You can't possibly know that from 20 minutes, I repeated, but my voice shook. Maybe not. He moved around the bar, and suddenly he was standing beside me, tall and solid and radiating a kind of controlled power that should have been intimidating. He offered his hand. So give me longer. Come sit with me properly. The bar's closing soon anyway. I glanced around. He was right. The other patrons were settling their tabs, gathering expensive coats and designer bags. When had it gotten so late? Closing. I repeated, and reality came crashing back. I had nowhere to go. Tyler would have changed the locks by now, not that I wanted to go back there anyway. I had $43 in my bank account and no shoes and... Hey! Luca's hand cupped my face, gentle but firm, grounding me before the panic could fully take hold. Breathe, darling. You're safe. I'm not putting you out on the street. You don't owe me anything, I said, but I was already leaning into his touch, desperate for the anchor he provided. This isn't about owing. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. This is about wanting to help. Will you let me? I should have said no. Should have had more pride, more self-preservation. But I was so tired of fighting, and Luca was looking at me like I was something precious instead of broken. Okay, I whispered. His smile was soft, approving. Good girl. The words shouldn't have affected me the way they did, warming me from the inside out, making me want to do whatever it took to earn that approval again. Tyler used to say things like that, but coming from him, they'd felt patronizing, diminishing. From Luca, they felt like a gift. He kept his hand on the small of my back as he guided me to a private booth in the corner, darker than the rest of the bar, more intimate. The leather was butter-soft beneath me as I slid in, and Luca settled across from me with a grace that seemed at odds with his size. Tell me something, Sofia, he said, producing a bottle of wine that definitely hadn't been on any menu I'd ever seen. He poured 2 glasses with practiced ease. What would you do if you could do anything? If money and circumstances and other people's opinions didn't matter? The question caught me off guard. No one had asked me that in. Had anyone ever asked me that? I don't know, I admitted. I used to have dreams, but they feel like they belong to a different person now. So become her again. He said it like it was simple. Like I could just decide to be someone else and make it happen. It's not that easy. No, he agreed. It's not. But it's possible. With the right support. The right protection. His eyes held mine across the table. The right person, willing to burn down anyone who tries to stop you. There was something in his voice, something dark and absolutely serious, that sent a shiver down my spine. Not fear, exactly. Something more complicated. You can't just burn down people, I said, trying for lightness. Luca's smile was sharp. Can't I? Before I could figure out how to respond to that, the last patron called out a goodbye. Night, Moretti. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Luca raised his glass in acknowledgement without taking his eyes off me. That leaves me plenty of options, Antonio. Laughter, and then the door closed. The click of a lock engaging echoed through the suddenly quiet bar. We were alone. The realization made my heart race. I was alone with a man I just met, in a locked bar with no phone. Tyler had smashed it during tonight's fight, and no shoes and nowhere else to go. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt safer than I had in 3 years. You're thinking too loud, Luca observed, sipping his wine. What's going on in that beautiful head? I'm trying to figure out if I'm being incredibly stupid or incredibly brave, I admitted. Maybe both. He set down his glass. Do you trust your instincts, Sofia? I used to. But 3 years with Tyler kind of destroyed my ability to trust myself. Then trust me instead. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to touch you without permission. And I'm not going to let you go back out into that rain with nowhere safe to land. Those are facts, not requests. Understand? The commanding tone should have set off alarm bells. Should have reminded me of Tyler's need for control. But this felt different. Tyler controlled me to make himself feel powerful. Luca was offering control because he could see I was drowning and needed someone else to hold the rope for a while. I understand, I said softly. Good. He relaxed back into his seat. Now, tell me about this cafe job. Do you like it? And just like that, we fell into conversation. Easy, flowing, natural. He asked about my favorite books. I liked literary fiction and poetry. He preferred Italian classics and crime novels. We talked about music. He played piano. I'd always wanted to learn guitar. He told me about growing up in New York with his mother, though I noticed he never mentioned a father. I told him about my grandmother raising me in D.C. after my parents died in a car accident when I was 6. She sounds like she was an incredible woman, Luca said when I finished talking about her. She was. I smiled sadly. She would have hated Tyler. Smart woman. I laughed, surprised I still could. She always told me I was too smart to let a man make me small. Guess I proved her wrong. You proved you're human. Luca's voice was gentle. We all make mistakes, Tesoro. What matters is what we do after we realize we've made them. You left. That takes courage. I was terrified, I confessed. I still am. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. He stood, offering his hand again. Come on. Let me show you something. I let him pull me to my feet, hyper-aware of how small my hand felt in his, how easily he could overpower me if he wanted to. But his grip was careful, respectful, and when he led me toward a door behind the bar marked, Private, I followed without hesitation. The door opened onto a staircase leading up. Luca flicked on lights as we climbed, and I found myself in what was clearly his personal office. Dark wood furniture, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk that looked like it cost more than a car. But what caught my attention was the far wall. It was covered in paintings. Original oil paintings, all clearly done by the same hand. Your mother. I breathed, moving closer. Yes. Luca came to stand beside me. I couldn't bear to sell them. This seemed like the best way to keep her close. They were beautiful, bold colors and dramatic landscapes and portraits that seemed to capture the soul of their subjects. I stopped in front of one that showed a young boy with dark hair and solemn eyes, holding a wooden toy gun. Is this you? I was 8. His voice was soft with memory. She painted it right before everything changed. Changed how? For a long moment, I didn't think he'd answer. Then, that's a conversation for another night. When you know me better. When you can decide if you still want to know. The cryptic response should have worried me more than it did. Instead, I just nodded and continued studying the paintings. There was so much love in every brushstroke. So much careful attention and devotion. She must have loved you very much, I said. She did. He moved closer, not quite touching, but near enough that I could feel his body heat. And she taught me that when you find something, someone worth protecting, you do whatever it takes. No matter the cost. I turned to face him, and found him already looking down at me with an intensity that stole my breath. Sofia, he said quietly, I want to help you. Really help you. But I need you to understand something first. What? Once you're under my protection, You're mine to protect. That means I don't take kindly to anyone who's hurt you. That means your problems become my problems. That means... He stopped, seeming to choose his words carefully. That means there might be consequences for people who deserve them. My heart pounded. Luca, what exactly are you saying? His hand came up to cup my face, and I leaned into it instinctively. I'm saying that if you tell me where Tyler lives, he'll never put his hands on you, or anyone else again. The words should have terrified me. Should have sent me running. But all I felt was a dark, shameful satisfaction that someone finally cared enough to be angry on my behalf. You can't just... I started. I can, he interrupted gently. And I will. If you let me. But that choice is yours, darling. Always yours. I searched his eyes, looking for the same controlling obsession I'd seen in Tyler's. But this was different. Luca was offering, not demanding. Asking permission, not taking control. I need time, I whispered. To think. To process all of this. Then take it. He pressed a kiss to my forehead, the first real touch beyond hand-holding, and it sent warmth flooding through my entire body. Stay tonight. The apartment upstairs is mine, but there's a guest room. Lock on the door, private bathroom, everything you need. In the morning, we'll figure out the next steps together. Okay. Relief nearly buckled my knees. Okay. Come on. He guided me toward another door, this one leading to a staircase going up instead of down. Let's get you somewhere warm and dry. You can borrow something to sleep in, and tomorrow we'll get you proper clothes. Luca, I can't afford. I didn't ask if you could afford it. His voice was firm but not harsh. I'm offering help, Sofia. Real help. Will you let me? And standing there in his office, surrounded by his mother's art and his careful attention, I found myself nodding. Yes, I said. Yes, I'll let you help. His smile was brilliant, transforming his entire face. Good. Trust me, tesoro. I'm going to take care of everything. As I followed Luca Moretti up the stairs to his apartment, I should have been questioning everything. Should have been scared of this stranger and his cryptic warnings and his offer of protection that sounded more like a claiming. But all I felt was safe. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like someone was on my side. I had no idea what I was really agreeing to. No idea that Luca's protection came with a price I hadn't begun to understand. No idea that the man currently treating me with such careful kindness had earned his nickname, Shotgun, for reasons that would have made me run screaming if I'd known. But that was a truth for tomorrow. Tonight, I was just grateful to be somewhere warm. Somewhere safe. Somewhere that felt dangerously close to home. I woke up disoriented, wrapped in sheets that felt like clouds and smelling like expensive detergent I couldn't name. For a few blissful seconds, I didn't remember where I was or why. Then it all came rushing back. Tyler, the rain, the bar, Luca's green eyes promising protection I wasn't sure I should accept. The guest room was beautiful. Minimalist but warm, with cream-colored walls and furniture that managed to be both modern and comfortable. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, early morning light painted the DC skyline in shades of gold and pink. I'd fallen asleep in one of Luca's t-shirts, soft black cotton that hung to my knees and smelled like him. Bergamot and cedar and safety. God, I was in trouble. A soft knock on the door made me jump. Sofia? You awake? Luca's voice was muffled through the wood. I've got coffee and breakfast. Can I come in? I scrambled to sitting, suddenly aware that I was wearing only his shirt and my underwear. Yeah. Just, give me a second. But he was already opening the door, backing in with a tray balanced in his hands. He'd clearly been up for a while, showered and dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, with the sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that had no business being that distracting. His hair was still damp, curling slightly at the edges. He looked unfairly good for whatever ungodly hour this was. I wasn't sure what you liked, he said, setting the tray on the nightstand, so I made a bit of everything. Eggs, Toast, fruit, pancakes. There's cream and sugar for the coffee if you need it. I stared at the spread, restaurant-quality food, perfectly plated and still steaming. You made this. My mother insisted I learn to cook. He settled on the edge of the bed, careful to maintain distance. She said any man who couldn't feed himself or the people he cared about was only half-raised. She sounds like she was incredibly wise. She was. His smile was soft with memory. She would have liked seeing someone actually use this room. I've had this place for 3 years, and you're the first guest I've ever had stay over. That surprised me. Really? Why? Something flickered in his eyes. I don't usually bring my personal life and my work life together. But you're different. How can you possibly know that? We just met. Luca reached out slowly, giving me time to pull back, and tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear. The gesture was intimate, tender, and made my breath catch. Some things you just know, tesoro. Now eat. You barely had anything but whiskey last night, and you look like you haven't had a proper meal in days. He wasn't wrong. Tyler had been punishing me all week by eating out and not bringing me anything home, saying I needed to watch my figure anyway. As if my curves were something shameful instead of just how my body naturally was. I pulled the tray closer and took a bite of the eggs. They were perfect, fluffy and seasoned just right. Oh my God. Luca's smile widened. Good. Amazing. I took another bite, suddenly ravenous. Where did you learn to cook like this? My mother taught me the basics. The rest I picked up over the years. He stood, moving to the windows. I like taking care of people I care about. It's something I can control in a world where very little is controllable. There was something in his voice, something dark beneath the surface. I wanted to ask about it, but he turned back to me with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I took the liberty of having some clothes brought over for you. They're in the closet. I guessed at sizes, so if anything doesn't fit, we can exchange it. I froze with a forkful of pancakes halfway to my mouth. You bought me clothes? You can't walk around DC barefoot in a university sweatshirt. He said it matter-of-factly, like buying a stranger an entire wardrobe was perfectly normal. Consider it a loan if it makes you feel better. You can pay me back when you're on your feet. Pride warred with necessity. Pride lost. Thank you, I said quietly. That's incredibly generous. It's practical. He moved toward the door. Take your time. Shower, get dressed, whatever you need. I've got some work to handle in my office, but I'll be here all morning. Come find me when you're ready. He was almost out the door when I called out, Luca. He turned back. Yes. Why are you doing this? Really? For a long moment, he just looked at me. Then he crossed back to the bed, cupped my face in both hands, and pressed a kiss to my forehead that felt like a promise. Because the moment you walked into my bar, everything changed, he said softly. And I'm a man who pays attention when the universe puts something important in my path. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a heart that was beating far too fast. The closet wasn't just clothes. It was an entire wardrobe. Jeans in my exact size, soft sweaters, t-shirts, a leather jacket that probably cost more than my monthly rent, even underwear and bras that somehow fit perfectly. Everything was high quality but not ostentatious, like he'd genuinely thought about what I'd be comfortable in rather than what he wanted to see me wear. Tyler used to buy me clothes too. Tight dresses and heels that hurt, things that made me feel exposed rather than beautiful. He'd wanted a trophy, not a partner. This was different. I showered in the guest bathroom, all marble and chrome with water pressure that felt like heaven, and dressed in dark jeans and a forest green sweater that made my brown skin look warm and rich. My natural hair was a disaster, but I found leave-in conditioner in the bathroom, had he bought that too, and managed to work it into something resembling presentable. When I finally emerged, feeling more human than I had in days, I found Luca in his office. The door was ajar, and I could hear him speaking in rapid Italian to someone on the phone. His voice was hard, commanding, nothing like the gentle tone he used with me. Non mi interessa cosa pensa. Gesticelo o travero qualcuno che lo farà. I didn't speak Italian, but I understood tone. This was a man used to giving orders and having them followed without question. He glanced up and saw me hovering in the doorway. His expression immediately softened. Devo andare, he said into the phone, then ended the call without waiting for a response. Sofia. Come in. How are you feeling? Better. I stepped into the office, hyper-aware of how expensive everything was. The clothes are perfect. Thank you. You're welcome. He stood, moving around the desk with that fluid grace. Green is definitely your color. Brings out the gold in your eyes. I hadn't realized he'd noticed my eyes were more golden brown than pure brown. The observation made something warm unfurl in my chest. Who were you talking to? I asked, then immediately regretted it. Sorry, that's none of my business. Just work. He dismissed it with a wave. Nothing important. Sit, please. We need to talk about next steps. I settled into one of the leather chairs facing his desk, and he leaned against the desk itself rather than sitting behind it, keeping us more level, less formal. First question, he said. Do you want to go back to Tyler's place for your things? The thought made my stomach clench. I don't have much. Some clothes, my art supplies, a few books. Nothing I can't replace. That's not what I asked. His green eyes were sharp, assessing. Do you want your things? Because if you do, I'll make sure you get them safely. How? He won't just let me walk in and pack up. Luca's smile was sharp. He will if I'm with you. Trust me, tesoro. Men like Tyler are cowards at heart. They only hurt people who can't hurt them back. There was something dark in his voice that sent a shiver down my spine. You can't just threaten him. Why not? Because I struggled for words. That's not how normal people handle things. I never claimed to be normal. He crouched down in front of my chair, bringing himself to eye level. Sofia, I need you to understand something. The world you've been living in, the rules you've been following, they don't apply to me. I operate differently. And if you're going to accept my help, really accept it, you need to decide if you can handle that. My heart pounded. What exactly do you do, Luca? I run several businesses. The bar, some restaurants, real estate investments. I help people who need helping and handle problems for people who can't handle them themselves. He reached out, taking my hands. And before you ask, yes, some of what I do exists in gray areas. But I have rules. I don't hurt innocents. I don't tolerate anyone who preys on the vulnerable. And I take care of the people under my protection. It wasn't really an answer. But it was more honesty than Tyler had given me in 3 years. Is Moretti your real last name? I asked. His smile was approving, like I'd passed some test. Yes. My mother's family came from Sicily 3 generations back. Some of them made their fortunes in traditional family businesses. I've tried to legitimize most of my operations, but old habits die hard. Traditional family businesses. The implication was clear, even if he wasn't saying it outright. You're in the Mafia, I said flatly. That's a very loaded term. He squeezed my hands. But I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, I have connections to organizations that operate outside the law. Yes, I've done things that would shock you. But everything I do with a code. With honor. I should have run. Should have thanked him for the clothes and the night's shelter and gotten as far away from him as possible. Instead, I asked, why are you telling me this? Because I want you to make an informed choice. He stood, pulling me up with him. You can walk away right now. I'll set you up with money for a hotel, help you find a new apartment, make sure Tyler never bothers you again. You never have to see me after today. Or Or you can stay. His hands moved to my waist, steady and warm. Let me protect you properly. Let me show you what it's like to be cherished instead of diminished. Let me deal with the people who've hurt you while you figure out who you want to be next. And what would you want in return? I asked, because men like this, powerful, dangerous men, didn't give without taking. Honestly. He tucked a curl behind my ear. I'd want you to have dinner with me. To tell me about your day. To let me see you smile the way you did this morning when you tasted my cooking. I'd want the chance to see if this feeling, he pressed my hand to his chest, where his heart was racing as fast as mine, is real or just adrenaline and timing. That's all. That's everything. His voice dropped lower. I'm not Tyler, Tesoro. I don't want to own you. I want to know you. Protect you. Maybe, if we're lucky, love you eventually. But that's your choice to make, not mine to take. God, I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that this beautiful, dangerous man actually saw me as something worth more than possession. I need time, I said. To think. Then take it. He released me, stepping back to give me space. Stay here as long as you need. The guest room is yours. No expectations, no pressure. Just safety and space to figure things out. You'd really just let me stay here? A stranger. You stopped being a stranger the moment you walked into my bar. He moved back to his desk, putting more distance between us. I've got meetings this afternoon, but I'll be back by 6. If you're comfortable with it, I'd like to take you to dinner. Somewhere nice. Let me show you how you deserve to be treated. Everything in me screamed that this was too much, too fast, too good to be true. But I was so tired of listening to the voice that sounded suspiciously like Tyler, telling me I didn't deserve good things. Okay, I heard myself say. Dinner sounds nice. Luca's smile was brilliant. Perfect. In the meantime, make yourself at home. There's food in the kitchen, books in the library, anything you need. The building is secure. Coded entry, cameras, doorman. You're completely safe here. Do I need that level of security? His expression darkened. Anyone under my protection does. Tyler won't find you here, but even if he somehow did, he wouldn't get past the lobby. I promise you that. The certainty in his voice should have been alarming. Instead, it was comforting. Thank you, I said softly. Don't thank me yet. He came around the desk and pressed a key into my hand. Thank me when you decide if you're staying or going. This is yours either way. The apartment, the building, everything. Your choice, always. I stared at the key in my palm. Such a small thing. Such enormous implications. I should probably call in to work, I said, grasping for normalcy. Let them know I'm okay. Use my phone. He handed me his cell, sleek and expensive, like everything else he owned. Take your time. I need to handle some business, but I'm here if you need me. I nodded and retreated to the guest room, needing space to process everything. The phone felt heavy in my hand as I dialed the cafe. Morningside Cafe, this is Janet. Hey Janet, it's Sofia. Oh my God, Sofia. Are you okay? Tyler called here this morning asking if we'd seen you, and he sounded. I'm fine, I interrupted. I left him. For good this time. Silence. Then, thank God. Honey, we've all been so worried about you. Are you safe? Do you need somewhere to stay? The concern in her voice made my eyes burn. I'm safe. I'm staying with a friend. Okay, good. Listen, take all the time you need, all right? Your job will be here when you're ready. Thank you. I meant it. I'll call you in a few days. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at Luca's phone. Tyler had called my work. Was probably calling everyone we knew, spinning some story about how I'd had a breakdown, how I was unstable, how he was just a concerned boyfriend trying to find his troubled girlfriend. The thought of his lies spreading made me feel sick. A text notification popped up on the screen. Enzo. Package delivered. Awaiting further instructions. I shouldn't have read it. It was Luca's private message. But my eyes caught the next text that came through before I could look away. Enzo. Should we handle the Tyler situation? Say the word and he's handled. My blood ran cold. Handled. What did that mean exactly? Another knock on the door made me jump so hard I nearly dropped the phone. Sofia. Everything okay? Luca's voice was concerned. I opened the door, holding out the phone. Your phone was. There were messages. He glanced at the screen, and something flickered in his eyes. Not anger that I'd seen them. Something else. Something almost like satisfaction. And? He asked calmly. What does handled mean? Luca stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. It means whatever I want it to mean. I could have Enzo scare Tyler. Have him convinced to leave the city. Have him understand that touching you was the biggest mistake of his pathetic life. He paused. Or I could have him handled more permanently. That choice is yours, darling. I stared at him, my heart racing. You're talking about hurting him. I'm talking about making sure he never hurts anyone again. Luca's voice was calm, matter of fact. Men like Tyler don't stop. They just find new victims. You know that. I did know that. Had seen how he'd been with his ex before me, though I'd convinced myself I was different, that I wouldn't make her mistakes. I can't ask you to, I started. You're not asking. I'm offering. He cupped my face gently. This is who I am, Sofia. I protect what's mine, and I don't believe in half measures. If you're going to be in my life, you need to accept that. I'm not yours, I whispered, but it came out less certain than I intended. His smile was slow, predatory. Not yet. But you're getting there, aren't you? You feel it too, this pull between us. This inevitability. I did feel it. Had felt it from the moment I looked up into those green eyes and saw something I'd never seen before. Someone who looked at me and saw worth. This is crazy, I said. We just met. The best things usually are. He echoed his words from last night. Tell me to stop, Sofia. Tell me to back off, to leave Tyler alone. To treat you like a casual acquaintance instead of someone I'm already prepared to burn the world down for. Tell me, and I will. But I couldn't. Because some dark, broken part of me wanted exactly what he was offering. Protection, devotion, someone who cared enough to be dangerous on my behalf. I don't want you to kill him, I said finally. But I don't want him to hurt anyone else either. Luca's smile was approving. That's my girl. I'll have Enzo handle it appropriately. Tyler will leave town and won't bother you, or anyone else, again. I promise. How can you promise that? Because when I make a promise, darling, I keep it. No matter what it takes. He pressed a kiss to my forehead. Now, I really do need to handle some business. Rest. Relax. Tonight, I'm going to show you how you deserve to be treated. Okay. I nodded, not trusting my voice. As he left, I sank onto the bed, my mind racing. I was in way over my head. Getting involved with Luca Moretti was dangerous, probably stupid, definitely reckless. But for the first time in 3 years, I felt alive. And I wasn't ready to give that up. Not yet. I spent the afternoon exploring Luca's apartment like a detective searching for clues about who he really was. The living room was elegant but surprisingly warm. Leather furniture that looked comfortable rather than just expensive, bookshelves filled with well-worn novels in both English and Italian, framed photographs that told stories I didn't yet know. Most of the photos featured Luca and a beautiful woman who had to be his mother. She had the same bone structure, the same intense eyes, though hers were dark rather than green. In every picture, she was smiling at him like he hung the moon. In every picture, he looked at her with open adoration. There were no photos of a father. I wondered about that. The kitchen was professional grade, all stainless steel and marble, with a spice rack that would make a chef weep. Luca clearly spent real time in here. I found fresh pasta drying on a rack, homemade sauce in the fridge, vegetables from what had to be a farmer's market. This wasn't the kitchen of someone who ordered takeout every night. Tyler had refused to cook, said it was women's work. Had complained constantly about my cooking while never lifting a finger to help. The contrast made my chest ache. I was examining Luca's collection of Italian cookbooks when my reflection in the microwave caught my eye. I looked different. Not just because I was wearing new clothes or because my hair was actually styled for once. Something in my eyes had changed. I looked less hunted, less small. One day with Luca, and I was already remembering who I used to be. The thought terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. My phone, Tyler's phone technically, but I'd been paying the bill, buzzed in my pocket. I'd retrieved it from my purse this morning, surprised Tyler hadn't already cut off the service. The screen showed 17 missed calls from Tyler and a string of texts that made my stomach turn. Where the hell are you? You're being ridiculous. Come home. I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean it. You know I love you. If you don't answer me right now, you're going to regret it. I called your work. Janet said you're staying with a friend. What friend? You don't have any friends. You're making a huge mistake. No one else is going to put up with you. The messages continued in that vein, cycling between apologies and threats, love bombing and degradation. The pattern I knew so well I could have written the script myself. A new text came through as I watched. I know you're reading these. I can see the read receipts. Stop being a child and come home. My hands shook as I blocked his number. Then, feeling bold in a way I hadn't felt in years, I changed my relationship status on social media from in a relationship to single and blocked him there too. It felt like cutting an anchor loose. Good for you. I spun around to find Luca leaning against the door frame, watching me with approval in his eyes. He'd changed into a different shirt, a deep burgundy that made his olive skin look even warmer. I didn't hear you come in, I said. Light footsteps. Habit. He moved into the kitchen, standing close enough that I could smell his cologne. Blocking him was the right call. You don't owe him explanations or second chances. He's going to be furious. Let him be furious. Luca's voice hardened. He doesn't get to dictate your life anymore. And even if he wanted to do something about his anger, he won't get the chance. I thought about the text from Enzo. You already sent someone, didn't you? I told you I handle problems. He brushed a curl away from my face, the gesture now familiar and welcome. Enzo is very persuasive. Tyler will be leaving DC tonight, and he won't be coming back. Just like that. Just like that. His eyes searched mine. Does that bother you? It should have. But all I felt was relief. No, I admitted. Is that terrible? It's human. Luca smiled. You're allowed to be glad that the man who hurt you is facing consequences. That's not terrible, darling. That's justice. Justice. Like his first name. I wondered if that was intentional. If his mother had named him that, knowing what kind of man he'd become. Are you ready for dinner? He asked, changing the subject smoothly. We have reservations in an hour. Where are we going? You'll see. His smile was mysterious. It's a surprise. But I promise you'll like it. I don't have anything nice to wear. The clothes you got me are perfect for every day, but if this is somewhere fancy. Luca's laugh cut me off. Check the closet again. All the way in the back. I returned to the guest room and opened the closet, pushing past the jeans and sweaters to find 3 dresses I somehow hadn't noticed before. One black, one deep emerald green, one midnight blue. All in my size. All absolutely gorgeous. I pulled out the green one. It felt like silk against my fingers, with a neckline that would be elegant without being too revealing and a cut that would hug my curves in all the right ways. Perfect choice, Luca said from the doorway. That's the one I hoped you'd pick. You have excellent taste. I have excellent motivation. His eyes traveled over me in a way that made heat pool in my stomach. I'll let you get ready. Take your time. We're in no rush. But he didn't move. Just stood there watching me with an intensity that made my skin feel too tight. Luca, I said softly. I know. I'm going. He pushed off the doorframe but paused. Sofia, you look beautiful. In case no one's told you that recently. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with my racing heart. An hour later, I stood in front of the full-length mirror, barely recognizing myself. The dress fit like it had been made for me, highlighting every curve Tyler had convinced me to be ashamed of. I'd found makeup in the bathroom, still in packaging, clearly bought specifically for me, and had done something simple but elegant. My natural hair was pulled back in a way that showed off my face and the delicate gold hoops I'd found in the jewelry box on the dresser. I looked like someone worth taking to dinner. Worth protecting. Worth choosing. I looked like myself again. When I emerged from the guest room, Luca was waiting in the living room. He'd put on a jacket, charcoal gray that fit him perfectly, and was checking his phone. But the moment I stepped into the room, his complete attention shifted to me. The look on his face made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. Sofia, he breathed. You're stunning. The dress is doing most of the work, I deflected, uncomfortable with the praise. The dress is just fabric. He crossed to me, taking my hands. You make it beautiful. Don't ever doubt that. My eyes burned with unexpected tears. You barely know me. Then let me know you better. He pressed a kiss to my knuckles. Starting tonight. Are you ready? I nodded, not trusting my voice. The elevator ride down was quiet but charged. Luca kept his hand on the small of my back, a possessive gesture that should have bothered me but didn't. In the lobby, the doorman greeted him with obvious respect. Evening, Mr. Moretti. Car's waiting. Thank you, James. The car was a sleek black sedan with a driver who nodded at Luca but didn't speak. Luca held the door open for me, ever the gentleman, and slid in beside me. You're quiet, he observed as we pulled into traffic. Second thoughts. More like 50th thoughts, I admitted. This is all happening so fast. We can slow down. His hand found mine in the darkness. Set the pace, Sofia. I'll follow your lead. What if I don't know what pace I want? Then we'll figure it out together. He squeezed my hand. No pressure. Just possibility. I looked at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd appeared in my life at exactly the right moment. Or exactly the wrong one. I wasn't sure which yet. Can I ask you something? I said. Anything. Why me? You could have anyone. Someone from your world who understands your life. Why choose a broke cafe worker with more baggage than sense? Luca turned to face me fully, his green eyes serious in the passing streetlights. Because when I saw you walk through my door, I didn't see baggage. I saw strength. I saw someone who'd been through hell and was still standing. Still fighting. Still hoping for something better. His thumb stroked across my knuckles. And because something in my chest recognized something in yours. Like we'd been waiting to find each other. That sounds like a line, I whispered, but I wanted desperately to believe it. It's the truth. He raised my hand to his lips. Give me tonight, darling. Let me prove it. The car pulled up in front of a restaurant I recognized from magazine articles. The kind of place with months-long waiting lists and prices that required special occasions. Luca, this is too much. Nothing is too much. He helped me out of the car, his hand warm and steady. Not for you. Not anymore. And as we walked into the restaurant together, Luca's hand on my back and his attention entirely on me, I let myself believe, just for tonight, that maybe I deserved this. Maybe I deserved him. Maybe I deserved to be chosen. The restaurant was even more intimidating inside. Crystal chandeliers, crisp white tablecloths, waiters who moved like dancers. Every other woman in the place wore jewelry that probably cost more than I'd made in my entire life. I felt like an imposter in my borrowed dress and drugstore makeup. But then Luca's hand settled on my lower back, and the maitre d' greeted him by name. Mr. Moretti, wonderful to see you again. Your usual table. Please, Marco. We were led through the dining room to a private corner booth with a view of the city lights. Luca waited until I was seated before settling across from me, and I noticed how every staff member who passed gave him subtle nods of respect. You come here often? I asked. Often enough. He accepted the wine list from Marco without looking at it. We'll start with the Barrow H. Low. The 2015. Excellent choice, sir. When we were alone, Luca leaned back and studied me with those impossibly green eyes. You look nervous. I've never been anywhere like this. I gestured at the surrounding opulence. This is a lot. It's just dinner, tesoro. Good food, good wine, good company. Everything else is just decoration. Easy for you to say. You belong here. Do I? His smile was enigmatic. I grew up in a fifth-floor walk-up in Brooklyn. My mother cleaned houses to pay rent. The first time I went to a restaurant like this, I was 17 and had to borrow a suit that didn't fit. I felt like everyone could see right through me. The image was so at odds with the confident man before me that I couldn't quite reconcile it. What changed? I realized that belonging isn't about where you come from. It's about deciding you deserve to be somewhere and refusing to apologize for taking up space. He reached across the table, taking my hand. You deserve to be here, Sofia. Believe that. The wine arrived, and Luca went through the tasting ritual with practiced ease. When both our glasses were full, he raised his. To new beginnings, he said. To safety, I countered. To both. We clinked glasses, and I took a sip of wine so smooth it felt like velvet on my tongue. Tell me about your art, Luca said, settling into his seat. What did you paint? The question caught me off guard. Tyler had never asked about my art. Had actively discouraged it, said it was a waste of time and money I should be spending on practical things. Mostly portraits, I said slowly. I liked capturing people in unguarded moments, when they forgot to wear their masks. Past tense. Why did you stop? I traced the rim of my wine glass, not meeting his eyes. Tyler said it was childish. That I needed to focus on real life instead of fantasies. Eventually, I just stopped fighting him on it. That's not stopping. That's being eroded. Luca's voice was gentle but firm. There's a difference. Maybe. I took another sip of wine. It doesn't matter now. I haven't painted in almost 2 years. I've probably forgotten how. Muscle memory doesn't forget. Neither does passion. He paused as our waiter appeared to take our order. Luca ordered for both of us in flawless Italian, and the waiter's face lit up with appreciation. When we were alone again, I asked, "What did you order?" Trust me. It was a loaded question. We both knew it. But I found myself nodding. Yes. His smile was worth the risk. Then you're about to have the best meal of your life. We fell into easy conversation, safer topics like favorite books and childhood memories. I learned that Luca's mother had read to him every night in Italian, that he'd learned English from television and neighbors, that he'd put himself through business school while working 3 jobs. My mother wanted me to have legitimate opportunities, he said. She knew what path I was being pulled toward, and she hoped education might give me other options. Did it? It gave me the tools to build something bigger. More sustainable. But the path? He shrugged. Some things are inevitable. Family legacy has gravity. What happened to your father? I asked, then immediately regretted it. Sorry, that's too personal. He died when I was 8. Luca's expression didn't change, but something shuttered in his eyes. He was involved in the family business. It caught up with him. I'm sorry. Don't be. He made his choices. He refreshed our wine. What about your parents? You said they died when you were young. Car accident. I was 6. I barely remember them, honestly. Just impressions. My mother's laugh, my father's cologne, the way they danced in the kitchen. I smiled at the hazy memory. My grandmother raised me. She was incredible. Tough but loving. She made sure I knew I could be anything I wanted. She sounds like she and my mother would have gotten along. Probably. They both seem to have the same philosophy. Raise your kids to be strong enough to survive the world. Did it work? Luca asked. I thought about that. About the 3 years with Tyler, the slow erosion of self, the fear that had become my constant companion. I don't know. Some days I feel strong. Others, I feel like I'm barely holding it together. That's not weakness, darling. That's being human. He reached across the table again, his fingers intertwining with mine. Strength isn't about never breaking. It's about breaking and choosing to put yourself back together anyway. The first course arrived, something delicate and beautiful that tasted like heaven. As we ate, I felt myself relaxing. The wine helped, but it was more than that. Luca had a way of making me feel seen. Like my words mattered. Like I mattered. It was intoxicating. Can I ask you something? I said between courses. Always. Why do they call you Shotgun? The question seemed to surprise him. His eyebrows rose. Where did you hear that? You mentioned it last night. When you first introduced yourself. Justice Parcell, aka Shotgun. Luca was quiet for a moment, studying me, like he was deciding how much truth I could handle. It's an old nickname. From when I was younger and more direct in my problem solving. Meaning, I had a reputation for handling situations with maximum efficiency and minimal subtlety. His smile was sharp. I've refined my methods since then, but the name stuck. Should I be worried? Not unless you plan on betraying me. He said it lightly, but there was steel underneath. I protect what's mine, Sofia. Fiercely. Sometimes violently. But I would never ever turn that violence on someone I care about. How do you know? If you care about me, I mean, it's been less than 24 hours. Luca leaned forward, his eyes intense. Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you walked through my door. Because seeing those bruises on your skin made me want to burn the world down. Because when you smile, really smile, I feel it in my chest like something fundamental clicking into place. My breath caught. Luca. I know it's fast. I know it probably sounds crazy. But I don't believe in wasting time when I know what I want. His thumb stroked across my knuckles. And I want you, Sofia. Not to possess. Not to control. But to know. To protect. To see if this feeling is real or just perfect timing. What if it's just timing? I whispered. What if I'm just grateful to be rescued? Then we'll figure that out together. But I don't think that's what this is. He brought my hand to his lips. Do you? I wanted to say yes. Wanted to dismiss this connection as trauma bonding or gratitude or desperation. But sitting across from him, feeling the way my pulse raced when he looked at me, the way safety and desire mixed into something I'd never felt before, I couldn't lie. No, I admitted. I don't think that's what this is. His smile was brilliant. Then let's see where it goes. No expectations. No pressure. Just honesty and possibility. The main course arrived, and Luca had been right. It was the best meal of my life. We talked and laughed and shared bites of food like we'd known each other for years instead of hours. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt light. Hopeful. Like maybe the future could be something other than just surviving. What are you thinking? Luca asked as we finished dessert, some chocolate creation that was probably illegal in some countries. That this feels like a dream, I said honestly. And I'm afraid I'm going to wake up back in Tyler's apartment. And none of this will be real. It's real. He stood and offered his hand. Come here. I took his hand and let him pull me up. He led me to the window overlooking the city, standing behind me with his hands on my waist. See that? He pointed at the glittering skyline. All real. This restaurant? Real. This dress, this wine, this moment? All real. His lips brushed my ear, sending shivers down my spine. And the way I feel about you? That's the most real thing of all. I leaned back against his chest, letting myself have this. Letting myself believe, just for tonight, that I deserved good things. That I deserved him. Thank you, I whispered. For what? For seeing me. For making me feel human again. Luca turned me around, his hands cupping my face. You are human, darling. Beautiful and strong and worthy of everything good this world has to offer. Don't ever forget that. Then he kissed me. It wasn't demanding or possessive. It was gentle, questioning, giving me every opportunity to pull away. But I didn't want to pull away. I wanted to sink into this moment, into him, into the promise of something better. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Luca rested his forehead against mine. Take me home, I said. His eyes darkened. Sofia. Not like that. Not yet. I pressed my hand to his chest, feeling his racing heart. Just take me home. To safety. To you. Always, he promised. And as we left the restaurant hand in hand, I knew with absolute certainty that my life had changed forever. For better or worse, I was falling for Luca Moretti. And I wasn't sure I wanted to stop. The ride back to Luca's apartment was quiet, but the silence hummed with tension. His hand rested on my thigh, not suggestive, just present, while the city lights streaked past the windows. I kept replaying the kiss, the way it had felt both overwhelming and safe at the same time. You're thinking too loud again, Luca murmured. I'm trying to figure out if I'm making a huge mistake, I admitted. And what's your conclusion? That even if I am, I don't want to stop. His hand squeezed my thigh gently. Good. Because neither do I. When we arrived back at his building, James, the doorman, greeted us with a knowing smile. Evening, Mr. Moretti. Mississippi. Evening, James. In the elevator, Luca pulled me close, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I had a good time tonight, he said softly. So did I. I leaned into him, feeling safe in a way I'd never felt with Tyler. Tyler's embraces had always felt like cages. Luca's felt like shelter. The elevator doors opened, and we walked hand in hand down the hall. But as Luca unlocked his door, I noticed him tense. What's wrong? I asked. Someone's been here. His voice had gone cold, controlled, dangerous. How do you know? He pointed at the door. The lock's been picked. Stay behind me. My heart hammered as he pushed the door open slowly. The apartment looked exactly as we'd left it, but Luca moved through it like a predator, checking rooms with practiced efficiency. I stayed frozen by the entrance, suddenly very aware of how little I knew about his world. Clear, he called out after a few minutes. He returned to me, his expression dark. They didn't take anything. Just left a message. What kind of message? He led me into his office. On his desk sat a single black envelope with ornate script across the front. Moretti. What is it? I asked. Luca opened the envelope and read the card inside, his jaw tightening with each word. Then he handed it to me. Your new pet is pretty. Would be a shame if something happened to her. We need to talk about the North End territory. Soon. V. My hands shook. Someone's threatening me? Already. Not threatening. Posturing. Luca took the card back and fed it into a shredder on his desk. Vincent Calabrese. He's been trying to push into territory I control. This is him reminding me he can reach me. By breaking into your home and threatening me? By showing he knows about you. Luca pulled me close. It's a power play. Nothing more. Nothing more. I pulled back to look at him. Luca, this is exactly what I was afraid of. Your world bleeding into my life. I won't let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. My voice rose despite myself. These people broke into your apartment. They know who I am. What if? Sofia. His hands gripped my shoulders firmly. Look at me. Vincent is a cockroach who thinks he's a shark. He makes noise because he's desperate, and desperate men make mistakes. This changes nothing except the timeline. Timeline for what? For handling him. The coldness in Luca's voice sent chills down my spine. I was going to give him another month to accept my terms. Now he has until tomorrow. What are you going to do? Whatever I need to. He softened slightly, pulling me against his chest. But you don't need to worry about that. I've already called in extra security. No one gets near you without going through me first. I wanted to argue, to tell him this was too much, that I should just leave before I got more entangled in his dangerous world. But his arms around me felt so safe, and the thought of going back to being alone, being vulnerable, being Tyler's victim. I'm scared, I whispered. I know. He kissed the top of my head. And I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should have been more careful about being seen with you so soon. So this is because we went to dinner? This is because Vincent has been watching me, looking for leverage. You're not the problem, darling. You're just the excuse he's using. Luca tilted my chin up. But I promise you he won't touch you. No one will. I'd burn this entire city down first. The intensity in his eyes should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel protected. Chosen. Worth protecting. What happens now? I asked. Now you stay here where it's safe. I've got people coming to upgrade the security. Cameras, better locks, panic buttons. And I'm assigning someone to you. Like a bodyguard? Like a shadow? He moved to his desk and made a call. Marco, I need you at the apartment. Now. Yes, it's about Vincent. 20 minutes. He hung up and turned back to me. Marco's one of my best. Former Marine, loyal to a fault. He'll stay close until this is handled. I can't just have someone following me around. You can and you will. His voice was firm. This isn't negotiable, Sofia. Your safety is my priority. There it was again, that commanding tone that should have set off alarm bells. But I was too tired to fight. Too scared. Too overwhelmed. Okay, I said quietly. Luca's expression softened. He crossed to me and pulled me into his arms. I'm sorry. I know this isn't what you signed up for. I didn't sign up for anything, I pointed out. I just walked into a bar. Best decision you ever made. He smiled slightly. Second best will be trusting me to keep you safe. Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. Luca tensed immediately, his hand moving to the small of his back, where I now realized he kept a gun. It's Marco, boss, a voice called through the door. Luca relaxed and opened it. The man who entered was massive, 6'5" of solid muscle with a shaved head and cold eyes that swept the apartment assessing threats. When those eyes landed on me, they softened slightly. This is Sofia, Luca said. She's under my protection. Treat her accordingly. Understood. Marco's voice was surprisingly gentle for someone his size. Ma'am. Just Sofia is fine, I said. Sofia needs a shadow until Vincent is handled, Luca continued. Round the clock. She goes nowhere without coverage. Consider it done. Marco looked at me again. I'll stay out of your way as much as possible, but I'll be close. You see anything that makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. Understood. I nodded, feeling like I'd stumbled into a movie. Luca gave Marco more instructions, patrol patterns, check-in times, approved locations, while I sank onto the couch and tried to process everything. Less than 24 hours ago, my biggest problem had been Tyler's temper. Now I had mobsters threatening me and ex-Marines assigned as bodyguards. What had I gotten myself into? Hey! Luca appeared beside me, Marco having left to set up his security position. Talk to me. What are you thinking? That this is insane. That I should leave before I get more involved in something I don't understand. Do you want to leave? I looked up at him. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd shown me more care in one day than Tyler had in 3 years. No, I admitted. But I should want to. Why? He sat beside me, taking my hand. Because it's complicated? Because it's not what you expected? The best things in life rarely are. Because people are threatening me, Luca. Because you have to assign armed guards to keep me safe. Because this world you live in is my world, not yours, he interrupted. You didn't ask for this. But now that you're here, I'm asking you to trust me. To let me protect you. To give us, a real chance. Why does it matter so much to you? You could have anyone. I don't want anyone. His green eyes were intense. I want you. The woman who walked into my bar with nothing but courage and kept her head high. The artist who stopped creating because someone convinced her she didn't matter. The survivor who's stronger than she knows. He cupped my face. That's who I want, Sofia. Not someone from my world who understands the rules. Someone real. Someone worth fighting for. Tears burned my eyes. You barely know me. Then stay. Let me know you better. Let me prove that what I feel is real. I should have said no. Should have walked away from the danger and the intensity and the complications. But when Luca looked at me like I was something precious, when he promised protection instead of control, when he made me feel worthy instead of worthless. Okay, I whispered. I'll stay. His smile was brilliant. Thank you. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll be honest. About the dangers, about your world, about what being with you really means. No more surprises. Luca was quiet for a moment, then nodded. I promise. Complete honesty, even when it's hard to hear. Deal. Deal. He pulled me against his chest, and I let myself relax into his embrace. Outside, somewhere in the city, threats were gathering. Danger was circling. My life was becoming complicated in ways I couldn't have imagined. But in Luca's arms, I felt safe. And for now that was enough. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, I panicked. Where was I? Then memory flooded back. Luca's apartment. Safety. The threat from Vincent Calabrese. I'd fallen asleep on Luca's couch last night, exhausted from emotional overload. Someone had covered me with a blanket and left a glass of water on the coffee table. Voices drifted from the kitchen, low, male, speaking in Italian. I wrapped the blanket around myself and padded toward them, stopping in the doorway. Luca stood at the stove making eggs while Marco sat at the kitchen island drinking coffee. Both men looked up when I appeared. Morning, Sleeping Beauty, Luca said with a smile. Coffee. Please. I slid onto a stool, hyper-aware that I was still in last night's dress, with my hair probably looking like a disaster. What time is it? Almost 9. I figured you needed the rest. He poured me a cup and slid it across the counter. Marco was just updating me on the security upgrades. Everything's in place. What does that mean exactly? I asked. Marco answered. Reinforced locks, cameras on every entrance, motion sensors, and a direct line to a response team. Plus, I'm here. No one gets in without me knowing. That seems like a lot for one person threatening us. Vincent isn't just one person, Luca said, plating eggs and setting them in front of me. He's got a crew. Small but dangerous. I'm not taking chances with you. I picked at the eggs, my appetite non-existent despite how good they looked. Have you heard from him? Since the note? No. Which means he's waiting to see if I'll reach out. Luca leaned against the counter. I won't. I don't negotiate from a position of fear. So what happens? I handle it. Today. His voice was casual, but there was steel underneath. You don't need to worry about the details. That's not really how this works, I said. If I'm in danger because of your world, I deserve to know what's happening. Luca and Marco exchanged a look. Then Luca nodded. You're right. Marco, give us a minute. Marco stood, taking his coffee. I'll be outside the door. He left, closing it behind him with a soft click. When we were alone, Luca came around the counter and took my hands. Vincent has been trying to move into the North End for months. It's territory I control. Clubs, restaurants, shipping operations. He thinks if he can scare me or distract me, I'll give ground. And will you? No. His eyes were hard. I worked too hard to build what I have. I'm not handing it over to some upstart who thinks threats and intimidation are negotiation tactics. So you're going to, what? Threaten him back. I'm going to make him understand that coming after what's mine has consequences. He squeezed my hands. I know this world is ugly, darling. I know it's not what you're used to, but it's the only way to survive in it, show strength, maintain respect, protect what matters. And I matter. The question came out smaller than I intended. More than you know. He pulled me to my feet and into his arms. Which is why I need you to stay here today while I handle this. Marco will be with you, and I'll have other people watching the building. You'll be completely safe. How long will you be gone? A few hours. Maybe less if Vincent is smart. He tilted my chin up. But I need you to promise me you won't leave this apartment. No matter what. I promise. I hesitated. Just, be careful. Please. His smile was soft. Always am. Now eat your breakfast. I need to get ready. He kissed my forehead and left me alone in the kitchen with my cooling eggs and racing thoughts. Through the window, the city looked peaceful, normal. It was hard to believe that somewhere out there, dangerous men were circling, that my life had become something requiring armed guards and security cameras. But it had. And I'd chosen to stay anyway. I picked up my phone and scrolled through social media, needing the distraction. My post changing my relationship status had blown up overnight. Mostly supportive messages from people I barely knew, but a few from Tyler's friends calling me dramatic, saying I'd regret leaving him. One message made my blood run cold. Tyler, you think you can just leave me and play house with some rich asshole? I know where you are, Sofia. We need to talk. Come down to the lobby. I'm waiting. My hands shook so hard, I nearly dropped the phone. Tyler was here. Downstairs. Right now. Marco was through the door before I could even call out. What's wrong? I showed him the message. His expression darkened. Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone but me or Luca. What are you going to do? My job. He was already pulling out his phone, typing rapidly. Boss needs to know about this. Don't tell Luca, I said quickly. He's about to handle Vincent. He doesn't need this distraction. Marco looked at me like I was insane. With all due respect, Sofia, my orders are to keep you safe and keep Luca informed. He's going to know. He left before I could argue, and I heard the lock engage behind him. I paced the apartment, my mind racing. Tyler had found me. Somehow he'd tracked me down despite my blocking him, despite staying with Luca, despite everything. My phone buzzed. Tyler, I see your bodyguard. Nice touch. But he can't keep me away forever. We're going to talk eventually. Might as well be now. Then, seconds later, a new message. Luca, Stay calm. Marco's handling it. I'm coming back now. Do not go downstairs. Understand? My heart hammered as I typed back. I understand. I'm sorry. I don't know how he found me. Luca responded. Not your fault. Just stay put. I'll be there in 15 minutes. I sank onto the couch, pulling my knees to my chest. This was exactly what I'd feared. My past colliding with my present, Tyler refusing to let go, danger from multiple directions. What would you do if someone from your past refused to let you move forward? Would you face them or let someone else handle it? The question circled in my mind, demanding an answer I wasn't sure I had. 15 minutes felt like hours. I watched the clock tick by, jumping at every sound, imagining Tyler somehow getting past Marco, breaking in, dragging me back to the life I'd escaped. But when the door finally opened, it was Luca, his face tight with controlled fury. He's gone, he said immediately. Marco convinced him to leave. Convinced how? Does it matter? He crossed to me and pulled me into his arms. What matters is you're safe, and he won't be coming back. You can't promise that. Tyler's obsessive when he doesn't get his way. Then he's going to learn what happens when he goes against someone more obsessive than he is. Luca's voice was dark. I told you I'd handle him, Sofia. I meant it. What did you do? I made it very clear that coming near you again would be the last mistake he ever made. He cupped my face. He believed me. I wanted to ask for details, wanted to know exactly what threats had been made, but part of me didn't want to know. Didn't want to see that side of Luca too clearly yet. What about Vincent? I asked instead. On hold. You're more important. He stroked my cheek. I'm not leaving you alone right now. You said you had to handle him today. And I will. But first, I'm making sure you're okay. He guided me to the couch and sat beside me. Talk to me. How are you feeling? Scared? Overwhelmed? Angry that Tyler won't just let me go? He will. I promise you that. Men like Tyler only have power when their victims are isolated and afraid. You're neither of those things anymore. Because of you. Because of you, he corrected. You made the choice to leave. You made the choice to stay here, to accept help, to believe you deserved better. I'm just providing the resources. I leaned against him, drawing strength from his solid presence. This is all so much more complicated than I expected. Worth it though. His arm came around my shoulders. I thought about that. About the fear and danger, yes, but also about feeling safe for the first time in years. About being seen and valued. The way Luca looked at me like I mattered. Yes, I said softly. Worth it. He kissed the top of my head. Good. Because I'm not letting you go, darling. Not to Tyler, not to Vincent, not to anyone. You're mine to protect now. The possessiveness should have bothered me. With Tyler, that kind of claiming had been suffocating. But from Luca, it felt different. Like he was declaring himself mine as much as claiming me as his. What happens now? I asked. Now I make some calls and ensure both Tyler and Vincent understand the new reality. He pulled out his phone. And you're going to do something for me. What? He stood and walked to a closet I hadn't noticed before, returning with a large box. You're going to paint. I stared at the art supplies, professional grade oils, brushes, canvases, everything I'd given up 2 years ago. Luca, I can't. You can. And you will. He set the box in front of me. You need something to do while I handle business, and I need to know you're reclaiming the parts of yourself that got stolen. So paint. Anything you want. Just create again. Tears burned my eyes as I looked at the supplies. Why would you do this? Because watching you come back to life is the best thing I've seen in years. He kissed me softly. Now paint, darling. Show me what you see when you look at the world. As he moved to his office to make his calls, I sat staring at the blank canvas. My hands shook as I picked up a brush for the first time in 2 years. And then I started to paint. Not Tyler. Not fear. Not the darkness I'd lived in. I painted green eyes and strong hands and the feeling of being chosen. I painted hope. I lost myself in the painting. Hours passed without me noticing, the outside world fading until it was just me, the canvas, and the colors bleeding into something that felt like truth. I painted Luca's hands, strong and gentle at once. The way they'd held my face, steadied me, promised protection. That's beautiful. I jumped, nearly dropping my brush. Luca stood in the doorway of his office, watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. It's not finished, I said, suddenly self-conscious. Doesn't matter. It's already beautiful. He crossed to me, studying the canvas. Is that how you see me? It's how you make me feel. Safe but alive. Grounded but free. I set down the brush. That probably doesn't make sense. It makes perfect sense. He pressed a kiss to my temple. You have real talent, darling. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise again. How did your calls go? His expression hardened. Vincent's been handled. He won't be a problem anymore. What does that mean exactly? It means he's accepted that the North End stays mine, and coming after you was a mistake he won't repeat. Luca pulled up a chair beside me. I gave him a choice, leave the city or work under my terms. He chose the latter. Just like that. He just agreed. I can be very persuasive when I need to be. His smile was sharp. Sometimes all it takes is showing someone exactly how much they have to lose. Vincent values his life more than his pride. I wanted to ask what threats had been made, what leverage Luca had used, but part of me knew I wasn't ready for those details yet. Maybe I never would be. And Tyler? I asked quietly. Also handled. He's leaving DC tonight. I've arranged for him to take a job in Seattle, one he can't refuse without serious financial consequences. By tomorrow, he'll be 3,000 miles away. You can do that. Just make someone move across the country. I can do a lot of things when properly motivated. He took my paint-stained hands in his. Tyler won't bother you again, Sofia. I've made sure of it. And if he's smart, he'll take this as the gift it is and start a new life somewhere else. Relief flooded through me so intensely my eyes burned. Thank you. Don't thank me for protecting what's mine. He pulled me to my feet. Come on. You've been painting for 4 hours. You need food and fresh air. I can't go outside. You said. I said you couldn't leave the apartment when there were active threats. Those threats are neutralized. He smiled. There's a rooftop garden. Private, secure, beautiful. Let me show you. The rooftop was stunning. A hidden oasis with plants and flowers, comfortable seating, and a view of the city that took my breath away. The sun was starting to set, painting everything in shades of gold and pink. This is incredible, I breathed. My mother designed it before she died. She said every home needed a piece of heaven. Luca guided me to a cushioned bench. I had it maintained exactly as she left it. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky. After a while, Luca spoke. I need to ask you something. Okay. What do you want, Sofia? Long term, I mean. Not just safety from Tyler or a place to stay. What do you actually want your life to look like? The question caught me off guard. No one had asked me that in years. Tyler had made all the decisions, all the plans. I just existed in the spaces he allowed. I don't know, I admitted. I used to have dreams, art school, maybe my own studio someday, a life that felt meaningful. But I gave up on those a long time ago. Why? Because they seemed impossible. Because Tyler convinced me I wasn't talented enough, smart enough, worthy enough. I looked at him. Because I forgot I was allowed to want things. You're allowed, Luca said firmly. You're allowed to want everything. And I want to help you get it. Why? What do you get out of this? He turned to face me fully, his green eyes intense. I get to watch you become who you're meant to be. I get to see you smile without fear behind it. I get to be the person who helps you remember your own worth. He cupped my face. And maybe, if I'm very lucky, I get to fall in love with you while doing it. My breath caught. Luca. I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. But I also know that every instinct I have is screaming that you're important. That this is important. That walking away would be the biggest mistake of my life. His thumb stroked my cheek. So I'm asking, will you give this a real chance? Not just staying until you're back on your feet, but actually building something together. Everything in me wanted to say yes. But fear held me back. Fear of moving too fast, of making another mistake, of ending up broken again. I'm scared, I whispered. Of me. Of this. Of wanting something so much and having it disappear. Then let me prove it won't. He pulled me into his lap, his arms solid around me. Stay with me, Sofia. Not as a guest or someone under protection. Stay as someone choosing to be here. Choosing me the way I'm choosing you. I looked into his eyes and saw something I'd never seen in Tyler's. Genuine care mixed with desire, protection without possession, strength offered rather than wielded. Okay, I said. Yes. I'll stay. His smile was brilliant. Then he was kissing me, deep and thorough and full of promise. I melted into him, letting myself have this, have him, have the hope that maybe I deserved good things. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, Luca rested his forehead against mine. I'm going to take care of you, he promised. Not because you need taking care of, but because I want to. Because watching you thrive is going to be my new favorite thing. What if I disappoint you? Impossible. He kissed me again, softer. You couldn't disappoint me if you tried. We stayed on the rooftop until the stars came out, talking about everything and nothing. I told him about my grandmother's stories, my childhood dreams, the person I'd been before Tyler. He told me about his mother's art, growing up between two worlds, building an empire from nothing. Do you ever regret it? I asked. The life you chose? Sometimes, he admitted. It's not easy, living in the gray areas, making hard choices. But it's the only way I know how to protect the people I love. Is that what I am? Someone you love. He was quiet for a moment. You're becoming that. Fast. Maybe too fast, but I've never been good at doing things halfway. Me neither, I said softly. When I love completely. That's what made Tyler so dangerous. I gave him everything, and he used it to destroy me. I'm not Tyler. Luca's voice was fierce. I will never use your love as a weapon. I will never make you small to make myself feel big. I will never hurt you, Sofia. I swear it. I wanted to believe him. And sitting there in his arms, surrounded by his mother's garden and his promises, I almost did. Take me to bed, I said quietly. His eyes darkened. Sofia. Not like that. Not yet. I pressed my hand to his chest. Just hold me. Let me fall asleep feeling safe. Let me wake up knowing yesterday wasn't a dream. Always, he promised. He carried me downstairs, actually carried me like I weighed nothing, and settled me in his bed, not the guest room. It smelled like him, felt like him, and when he climbed in beside me and pulled me against his chest, I felt something inside me finally relax. Luca. I whispered into the darkness. Yes, darling. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. His arms tightened around me. Thank you for walking into my bar and changing everything. I fell asleep wrapped in safety, in warmth, in the beginning of something that felt like it might actually be love. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't have nightmares. I dreamed of green eyes and gentle hands and a future that looked like hope. 3 months later, I stood in front of a gallery wall displaying my paintings, still not quite believing this was real. The opening was in 2 hours, and my stomach churned with nervous excitement. "Stop overthinking," Luca said, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. "They're perfect. You're perfect. Tonight is going to be perfect." "You're biased," I said, but I leaned back against him anyway. "Absolutely." He kissed my neck. "But I'm also right." "Marco, tell her I'm right." Marco, who'd become a constant presence in my life and something close to a friend, looked up from his position by the door. "Boss is right. Your work is incredible, Sofia. People are going to lose their minds tonight." The past 3 months had been transformative. With Tyler gone, he'd actually taken the Seattle job and, according to Luca's sources, was keeping his head down and staying away. I'd finally been able to breathe, to heal, to remember who I was before fear had made me small. Luca had kept every promise. He'd enrolled me in advanced art classes, set me up with a studio space, introduced me to gallery owners and collectors. But more than that, he'd given me space to grow, to find myself again, to become someone stronger than I'd been before. And somehow, in the process, I'd fallen completely in love with him. "What are you thinking about?" Luca asked, turning me to face him. "How much has changed? How different my life is now. Better different or worse different?" I pretended to consider. "Well, I do have to deal with a bossy Mafia boyfriend who thinks he knows everything." "I do know everything," he interrupted with a grin. "And a bodyguard who follows me everywhere." "Hey, I give you space," Marco protested. "And constant threats from your business rivals." "That was one time, and Vincent apologized," Luca said. "So yeah, definitely worse." I smiled up at him. "Absolutely terrible. Worst 3 months of my life." "Liar." He kissed me softly. "Admit it. You love this life." "I love you," I corrected. "The life is just a bonus." His expression softened. "Say it again." "I love you, Luca Moretti." I wrapped my arms around his neck. "Even though you're bossy and overprotective and have terrible taste in movies." "My taste in movies is excellent. And my taste in women is even better." He deepened the kiss until Marco cleared his throat loudly. "Boss, we've got company." We broke apart to find a woman in an elegant pantsuit entering the gallery. Miranda Chen, the curator who'd agreed to show my work. Her face lit up when she saw the paintings. "Sofia. These are even more stunning in person." She moved from piece to piece, studying each one with professional appreciation. "The emotion, the technique, the use of color, you're the real deal. We're going to sell out tonight, I guarantee it." "Thank you for taking a chance on me," I said. "Are you kidding? This is going to put my gallery on the map." She turned to Luca. "And thank you, Mr. Moretti, for the introduction. Though I have to say, I'm showing her work because it's brilliant, not because of your influence." Luca smiled. "I never doubted that for a second. Sofia's talent speaks for itself." After Miranda left to finalize preparations, I wandered back to my favorite piece, the one I'd started that first day in Luca's apartment. It had evolved over the months into something both intimate and universal. Hands reaching for each other across darkness, finding connection, finding hope. "That's the one I want," Luca said quietly. "It's not for sale. Everything has a price." I turned to him. "Not this. This one's mine. A reminder of where I started and how far I've come. Then I'll settle for the artist instead." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. My heart stopped. "Luca. Relax, it's not a ring. Not yet." He opened the box to reveal a delicate gold bracelet with a single charm, a tiny paintbrush. "I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out. But I wanted you to have something that reminds you that you're an artist. That you're strong. That you're loved. Tears blurred my vision as he fastened it around my wrist. It's perfect. You're perfect. He kissed my forehead. And when you're ready, maybe in a year, maybe in 5, I'm going to ask you to marry me. Just so you know. Pretty confident I'll say yes, I said, but my voice shook. Absolutely terrified you won't. His honesty undid me. But I'm willing to wait for however long it takes for you to trust that this is real. That I'm not going anywhere. That you deserve everything I want to give you. I already know all that, I said softly. You've shown me every single day. So, what are you saying? I looked into those green eyes that had promised me safety and delivered so much more. I'm saying, ask me in a year. Give me time to be sure I'm choosing this, choosing you, from strength, not gratitude or fear or need. I can do that. He smiled. Besides, gives me time to plan something appropriately dramatic. Can't have people saying Luca Moretti didn't properly romance his wife. Future wife, I corrected. Hypothetical future wife. Inevitable future wife, he countered. But I'll wait. However long you need. The gallery started filling up an hour later. Collectors, critics, friends Luca had insisted I make at the art classes, even some of his business associates who looked wildly out of place but were trying their best to appreciate abstract expressionism. I watched from the corner, still not quite believing this was happening, when a familiar voice made me freeze. Your work is extraordinary. I turned to find Janet from the cafe, dressed up and beaming. You came. Of course I came. You invited the whole staff, remember? She pulled me into a hug. Sofia, I'm so proud of you. We all are. Look at what you've built. More familiar faces appeared, co-workers from the cafe, neighbors from my old building, even the woman who ran the corner store near Tyler's apartment. People I'd thought had forgotten about me, showing up to celebrate my new beginning. Did you plan this? I asked Luca when he appeared at my side. I might have done some coordinating. He looked pleased with himself. You deserve to have people who care about you here. Your past supporting your future. The exhibition was a success beyond anything I'd imagined. Red dots appeared next to paintings as they sold. Miranda had been right, we were going to sell out. Critics praised the raw emotion and technical mastery. Collectors asked about future work. But the best moment came near the end of the night, when I overheard 2 women discussing my artist statement. It's so powerful, emerging from an abusive relationship to find not just safety but her own voice again. And that part about how love should make you bigger, not smaller. Goosebumps. I know. And apparently the boyfriend, the hot one in the expensive suit, he's been her biggest supporter. Goals, honestly. I glanced across the room to where Luca was charming a potential buyer, and he looked up at exactly that moment. Our eyes met, and his smile was soft, private, meant only for me. Yeah, definitely goals. As the crowd thinned and Miranda started closing up, I found myself back in front of that first painting. Luca joined me, slipping his hand into mine. You did it, he said quietly. You took your pain and turned it into something beautiful. You should be proud. I am. But I couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. Maybe not this quickly, maybe not this way, but you would have found your way back eventually. You're too strong not to. He turned me to face him. I just got lucky enough to be there when you did. You keep saying you're lucky. But I'm the one who walked into a bar with nothing and found everything. Then we're both lucky. He kissed me softly. Come on. Let's go home. Home. Not his apartment. Not a temporary shelter. Home. We said our goodbyes and stepped out into the DC night, Marco a discreet presence a few steps behind. The city lights sparkled, and somewhere out there, Tyler was living his own life, far away from mine. Vincent was handling his businesses under Luca's terms, no longer a threat. The dangers that had seemed so overwhelming 3 months ago had been handled, neutralized, overcome. What are you thinking about? Luca asked as we walked hand in hand. That I'm not scared anymore, I said. For the first time in years, I'm not afraid of what comes next. And what do you think comes next? I looked up at him, this dangerous, beautiful man who'd shown me what real love looked like. Who'd protected without controlling, supported without smothering, and loved without devaluing. More art. More growth. More of this. I squeezed his hand. More of us. Sounds perfect to me. He pulled me close, kissing me under the streetlights like we were the only two people in the world. When we broke apart, both breathless, he smiled. I love you, Sofia. Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. I echoed my words from that first night. Thank you for being exactly what I needed. Always, he promised. As we walked home through the city, protected, loved, free, I thought about that rainy night 3 months ago when I'd stumbled into the Crimson Rose with nothing but bruises and fear. I'd been running from my past, not knowing I was running toward my future. I'd walked into his broken bar and emerged whole. I'd found safety and discovered love. I'd been saved and learned to save myself. And the man I'd feared might be dangerous? He turned out to be dangerous only to the people who tried to hurt me. To everyone who mattered, he was gentle and devoted and true. 3 months ago, Luca had told me he saw someone worth protecting. Tonight, I finally saw her too. And she was stronger than anyone, including me, had ever imagined. The toxic past that drove me to his bar had become the foundation for a beautiful future. The Mafia boss who'd seen something in me had helped me see it in myself. And together, we were writing a story that had nothing to do with being saved and everything to do with choosing each other, every single day. It was messy and complicated and unconventional. It was also the truest thing I'd ever known. And as Luca pulled me close under the stars, promising forever with his eyes even as he gave me space to find my own way there, I knew with absolute certainty. This was exactly where I was meant to be. If you loved Sofia and Luca's story, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I post captivating stories like this one every single day. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a tale of love, redemption, and second chances. Your daily dose of romance and drama is just one click away. See you in the next story.